This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to AFLAC for supporting I Love Black People Radio.
Greetings, amazing I Love Black People listeners and followers of all the wonderful things that we're doing here. We couldn't do it without you. So we're so grateful for the time we spend. I definitely appreciate all the shout outs, the emails that y'all share with us, your ideas, some of the things that you're interested in us talking about. And I think it's super cool that we get to create a community around just the conversations that we're having and the work we're doing. So many of you share, the things you're doing professionally, civically for the community. Please keep sending that. And anybody doing anything that they'd love to share with us here, make sure you hit us with the info at iloveblackpeople.com. And we definitely always respond back to our emails. And with that being said, I'm coming to you. This recording is being done live from Kigali, Rwanda. So I'm right now on the way to a tech conference called the African Tech Summit, which is in Nairobi. And the area, we're in East Africa, and it's just a couple hour flight from Kigali to Nairobi. And we're having our team, we got a little booth, and we're going to be talking about the work I Love Black People is doing to crowdsource safe places, Black friendly, Pan African spaces for our people. One of the big campaigns we're running on the ground in Africa is our Pan African Unity campaign, where we're literally linking Pan Africanists in different fields of activities or industries. And the first and foremost that we're doing is connecting Black teachers, educators, and Pan African schools. And so we're doing a big push for that. If you again have any friends on the continent who are doing great teaching that are Pan African, please let us know. And if you know of any schools that focus on curriculum and approaches that see us as a family and not just the 54 countries that divide us, but a collective 1.5 billion strong at least. So those are the things that we're promoting and sharing with folks at the conference. It's going to be 2 days, and we got our team on the ground. Our lead developer actually lives in Nairobi, so that's going to be cool. Check out everybody's families and things like that. And then my partner in the Black Blockchain Summit that we host every year, he also lives in Nairobi, John Karanja, and he just got married. So it's always good to see friends and family on the ground and actually in person. So much of this post COVID, you really just kind of getting back out there and seeing people. And one of the things that's made it easier, I actually got a visa for Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya. They call it the East Africa visa. So that actually saved me some pages in my passport. And I'll tell you, be careful if you have a U.S. passport. Make sure that you have plenty of visa labeled pages available when you're traveling. At the end of the book, they have like these endorsement pages that technically they say are not for the visas stamps. And so if you don't have enough pages, they won't let you continue to travel. So that's just a travel tip that I've had to learn. I won't say the easy way, maybe the hard way. We're making sure that you can travel and do the things that you need to do if you're going to multiple places. And I often, especially coming to the continent, like to do multiple places because once you get into the continent, it's easier and it's cheaper to move around. So buying an international ticket with multiple legs is super expensive. To buy a ticket like from, let's say, the US to South Africa, and once you get to South Africa, then you buy a ticket to, Zimbabwe or to Rwanda. Those tickets can be much cheaper, and they're not as time sensitive. I know oftentimes in the States, you try to get your tickets well in advance and they're cheaper. And many of these flights, it's not that much of a difference. So it's the convenience as well as being able to just use a carrier that may not have a partner in the US or a partner that makes sense. So I definitely would advise folks. I didn't know this episode was going to be on travel tips, but I think it's definitely helpful to get a round trip that's relatively inexpensive to a major African city. Nairobi is another one. I actually, in this trip, I flew into Joburg, and I'm flying back to the States through Nairobi with a direct flight to JFK. So I had a straight flight from Atlanta, and that's like 15 hours, and then back from Nairobi is like 12 hours because it's kind of, yeah, but that's just distance of flying. With that being said, I think one of the key things is the time that you spend while you're abroad. The jet lag. Let's be careful. I tell people I try when I'm flying, stay up as long as I can. Like a 14-hour flight, I tell folks, look, whatever you do, drink coffee, try to stay up, because if you go to sleep as soon as you hit the plane, I don't think anybody can sleep 14 hours, like even in your best day. Let's say your best day, you can sleep 9 hours and still a plane, so it's not even the most comfortable. If you still, it's a 15-hour flight, you sleep 9 hours, that's more than 8 hours. You still got 6 hours left. That's horrible. So I tell people, try to stay up, 4 or 5 hours, once you're on the plane, maybe, 6 hours. Just do everything you can to stay up. And then when you finally fall asleep, let's say it's 10 hours left. You fall asleep, you sleep for, let's say, 7 hours. Now you got less than 3 hours left. And you can freshen up and you're about ready to, to hit the airport. But if you sleep early, it's nothing like, being restless and you got 7 hours left on the flight because you slept for eight. And then now it's 7 hours left. And it's like, whoa. So I definitely would add that to my travel tips is any of those long, 14, anything over 10 is a real thing. I mean, I think going from the US to Europe can be like a 7 hour, which is almost like a bicoastal east-west flight. So in some of those, I don't think you have to have a strategy. You can take a nap and get up and you still, it's not that much of a issue. But yeah, and I always like to get the aisle seat in the middle aisle rows. So like those large planes, they got the two groupings on the side by the window, and they got the one in the middle. I like to get the one in the middle in the aisle, where if I got to go to the bathroom, I don't have to jump over anyone. And then if I'm sleeping, the person can go the other way instead of trying to wake me up to get out of the plane. And I think I had an empty seat on the way over, so that was a cheap first class style where I had no one in between. And and some of my flights I take in when I'm actually traveling within Africa, I sometimes like to get an upgrade to first class just so that things are just easier. Even moving through customs with a first class ticket, you get treated it's a little faster. So let me say that sometimes into considerations, and then you get the access to the lounge and information, and that's more helpful. But let me get back to what we're really talking about. What because we're not here to talk about being tourists. I'm not knocking being a tourist, but the travel that I try to make sure we're doing is always productive. People ask me, is it business or pleasure? And I tell them I like to try to make my pleasure profitable and productive, and I like to make my pleasure. Excuse me. I like my business to be pleasurable. So I don't think you should separate business and pleasure. I think the things that you're doing should be productive, but at the same time enjoyable. So the people I'm dealing with are great folks. Even coming to South Africa, had some folks talking about selling a little townhouse and possibly might make a good opportunity for Airbnb. Already, if you don't know, we have a villa in the Dominican Republic and in a condo my wife has, and so it's one of those things where it's always been a good thing to have a property, even in Africa, throughout the continent. We have an office for I Love Black People in Zimbabwe. So having real estate with technology has become easier. I would say you still it's great to have someone on the ground that can help make sure whatever issues you have. I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed with this Airbnb property ownership thing is just the maintenance and upkeep and making sure when people come that everything's right, and then when they leave everything right, and having somebody to eyeball it so you can trust that everything is set up right. So I think those are some of the things that I think are super helpful when thinking about how you know to manage properties overseas. And it's been definitely a pleasure. And having good partners. I'd say this: the business activities I do, I've had now I've had I always try to have partners because it actually splits the work. And again, if you got and you're working with people that you enjoy, it actually can make it more enjoyable. Now sometimes it can be a little difficult because I tell people in business, it's not the subject matter that's hard, it's the people. So people are the hardest thing. So I think still having partners helps, especially when you got a lot going on, to have somebody you can depend on. And many times, many hands make for light work. Now, on the flip side, if there's not enough money in the business, having multiple partners can cause issues because one person will feel like they're doing more work than the other, and it can become kind of taxing on relationships like that. And then I also get people who talk about, don't have your family in business, deal with, don't do business with friends and family. And I say the total opposite. People say, oh, they try to take advantage or they feel entitled. I've been cheated and beat by strangers. If I was going to get cheated and beat by someone, I'd rather be somebody who I know the money went to family or went to some people that I might care about. When you got somebody, and I think the issue of entitlement is not about necessarily them being blood kin or family, but anytime people get familiar, and that could be with a business partner you've had for a number of years, there's a sense of entitlement that can get weird when you try to change things. And I've had people steal from me, literally take advantage and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you really, when you look at this, anybody can steal from you. One, two, to have people that you're working with that you actually are friends with, that the relationship was built on something besides money in a wicked capitalist system. Again, I don't tell y'all I'm a socialist, but I know capitalism is a predatorial and a wicked system. And when we talk about liberating our people, capitalism hasn't liberated anybody anywhere. If anything, it solidifies a disparity and a poverty. There's plenty of resources, but as soon as you put a capitalist model, it's not about equity, it's not about inclusion, it's not about everybody being well. It's about a few people making the most out of the masses. So inherently, and I'm not. And let me just say this: I didn't say I'm not a socialist to say there's something wrong with socialism. I think socialism is awesome, but I do also think that we have enough brains in the room that we can come up with better systems than all these systems that we currently are told. They're all old systems, so I'm not saying they're antiquated, but we definitely can. You can put people on the moon and do the things that we have now. Why not come up with a better economic system that doesn't have people eating or harming people and creating vast wealth disparities that you know over time even just get worse. So yeah, I kind of went a little way, but working with family every day is just a joy. And I work with family members, and I would say if you had a choice, you know, do business with people you like to see and talk to. And the entitlement that happens has nothing to do with there being nothing. I think more to do with not with the blood kin part, but just familiarity. People will get entitled and take advantage sometimes. So be be, be forever vigilant. Like I said, capitalism is a tricky thing because it's not based on how many people you help. Like what we're doing with I Love Black People, one of the mistakes I would say I made, especially with the venture capital model, they always are talking about, of course, monetization and the growth. And it could sometimes rapid growth and monetizing aren't really what's needed. Meaning, if you're creating a system like we are to protect our people from racism, Afrophobia, we probably don't need millions of people all at once. What we need is people who are very serious, and that's what our focus is. Our focus are really the people that we're looking with to work with. I Love Black People, and if this is you, please join us and reach out to us with our social media or with our email. Like I said, our website iloveblackpeople.com. We're looking for folks who are trying to help protect our communities. That's our early adopter, not the people who are looking for help, the people who are providing the help. And we're saying that there's a way that you can provide help that doesn't require you to have to go march in the streets, or you don't have to show up at every civic meeting, but you could do this just using your cell phone, being able to engage and organize and help solve the problems that we're facing by literally engaging using your cell phone. We think that's a powerful tool that we can leverage to organize our people globally to create a global safety net. And now we have the technology to do so. Right now, we use WhatsApp, we use Telegram, we use Facebook. We're using a lot of these other platforms. But as we build the I Love Black People app, we're building a platform that we don't have to go to these other platforms. They can't Zuckerberg or some of these, they can't shut us out. We'll be self-sustaining. So we really love the fact that to take Pan-African unity, Black unity, and merge it with technology in a way that makes the most of all our skills in a scalable way with zero marginal cost. So even when we talk about monetization, we're saying, look, if we do this right, it won't be so expensive to build it. And what we see as our model is the sponsors, the businesses that you already support who understand the significance of Black unity, of Pan-African unity, and want to see a safety net that can help protect our children. And so as much as we're doing the Pan-African unity activity and campaign and on the continent of Africa, we're also in the Washington, D.C. area. We're working with young people to create a oasis. We're really looking at how we could do this for all HBCUs, but we're working with some student leaders, where we can make sure that they're engaged in solutions using technology to stop youth gun violence. Again, when we start talking about our young people who are attending universities, they should be that should be like an aspirational thing. That should be inspiring other young people to want to be, and engage at that level, and not be something where there's a level of contempt or town and gown. So we're looking at leveraging I Love Black People, our app, as well as activities of organizations that are already doing the work to elevate that work and to amplify it and organize so that we can actually eliminate gun violence, especially in these areas around historically Black colleges and universities, the Tuskegees, the Howards. Like literally, these places should be bastions of productivity for young people. And this may not be actually just the young people who are in college at these universities, but being in that area, young people should see these as, like, how they always talk about the Harlem Renaissance, where you could just go there and bump into just like super great minds doing super great things. We need to create that environment, and we can't wait for someone to do that. It's unreasonable to ask for the police to do that. And I think that's one of the issues that we face is that it's more good people and doing good things than bad people doing bad things. But sometimes the bad people are out organizing the good people. And so, and again, it's good and bad in everybody. So I don't mean to label, but in the end of the day, we need to know that it's going to take more than politicians to address these issues. There's only a handful of politicians. There's only so many police, but there's a whole bunch of us. You know, when we talk about the the black masses are huge. The African masses. Again, I said it's 1.5 billion people. There's no reason for us to have to wait for politicians or for government officials when we have resources and the ability to organize our communities to help address these issues that really are serious. And we should, if anyone, make a priority. So, as a tech startup, as an entrepreneur, you know, we all have a role to play. You know, my background is engineering. So, when we do our work, our focus is how do we leverage technology to help solve the problem of youth gun violence. And we can collaborate with sociologists and psychologists and even give them access to tools that we're creating to make their job more impactful. So much of what we're doing is literally, you know, sharing the good news that hey, we are the solution. We're the ones we've been waiting on. We don't have to blame our children this generation. You know, many of us who were Gen X, we were blamed. They blamed us for crack cocaine, and most of us never saw a coca plant, wouldn't know where they grow or how it's grown. But somehow we were the villain in a movie on drugs. And when we really were the victims and no one was coming to protect us. Matter of fact, they was afraid of us. So, you know, now we have an opportunity as the adults in the room to make sure we never fear our children, that they receive the love that they deserve, and they receive the protection. If a child somehow thinks that they need to carjack people, something is being done to that child that's not right. Something that's a response that's like not natural. It's not natural for us to want to have a gun illegally and put it in somebody's face and take their car. Like as a 12, 13, 16, like that's not natural. I've been all over the world. I don't know where that's natural. But when it happens, we have to do deliberate things to stop it. And I'm not talking about putting yourself in harm's way. What I am saying, we need to put ourselves in the best way to protect our children because they're our children. They're not someone else's children. So we're thinking that someone else is going to be more concerned about our children than we are, then we're not going to be able to solve this. And this is even for those of us who don't have children. These are still a part of our community. So we have a obligation to our community. You know, we say I am because we are therefore I am. You know, our identity is oftentimes prescribed by our community. Who we are, who we say we are, who we profess that we are, has a lot to do with the community. So when we look at a particular area like the DMV, you know, we're really talking about the DMV. Like we're talking about an area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, where we have some of the highest population of success for Black people. We have some of the most educated, most economically successful. You know, what does all that mean if we can't keep our children from getting their heads blown off? Like that, like what does power mean if you can't protect your children? What's political power? What's economic power if you can't keep people from harming your children? So it's really imperative that we, out of all the things, and this is one of the things with election cycles, they'll talk about voter rights. They'll tell you about all these things, but we got to have our own agendas. The top thing in my agenda is violence, ending the violence. That's domestically and foreign. We got to end the violence. It's unacceptable that people are getting their heads blown off. There's too much surveillance technology. There's too much that now that people can, like guns have never been manufactured in our community. So they don't come from our community, they come into our communities. And the movement of manufactured goods is pretty easy to track. Just like cocaine, which is grown and has to be planted, and then it has to be, tilled the soil and it has that the weeds taken out, and it has to be, watered, and then it has to be harvested and processed. Like at every step of that, somebody can step in and stop that from becoming cocaine. For us to think that these things are going on just because JoJo and Julio are just bad young people that is absurd. That's a supply chain. That requires some real heavy, sophisticated activity to maintain and support that we're receiving already. It again becomes very important. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my young frat brothers who did the Super Bowl. Now, Colin Kaepernick is a Kappa also, and we know the NFL is racist. And with that being said, definitely saw the young brothers doing their thing, and we're proud of our young people and everything they do. And we're definitely proud of the young brothers who performed at that. And then we know sports is often used as a distraction, but we're definitely thankful for the young people. And shout out to Cote d'Ivoire for winning the African Soccer Cup or Football Cup. Great game with Nigeria. So definitely, with all that being said, I am because we are. Thank you so much.
This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to Aflac for supporting I Love Black People Radio.